This is recorded, so it is getting recorded, so we can get this to everybody. So thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. The club is going to continue to do these meetings we're saying every 6 to 8 weeks with teams, so that and if people want to come, that's great. If not, we're going to be available to each team or age group to talk about whatever issues are going on, and also just updates about what we're doing and communication issues, tournaments, schedules, whatever. So we're excited about that. And these meetings have been really educational for us as a staff. And hopefully we're passing on information to everybody else too. So thanks for coming. The purpose of the meeting is to kind of recap for a couple minutes last year, and looking forward to next year, and also to introduce a few people. Just real quick, the club has hopefully you've seen it, but Bryce has done an amazing job of really getting our organization to operate really, really efficiently and better in communication, and just changing our platforms that we're using and registrations and triad information. And it's just been it's light and day from a year and a half ago when Bryce joined. So and I think the club in general has done a pretty good job of improving quite a bit of things. We still have a long way to go. And so one of the things that we're looking at is just our structure of the club, and also getting the AGCs. And the whole reason we had the AGCs when we started last year was just getting capable, hardworking, knowledgeable coaches into, rather than just having one technical director, which is me, getting a couple in there so that we can see and watch and help. So that, I think that's helped quite a bit. Sam, we have, because we're growing and we're getting bigger and better, Sam is still going to be in the club. He's still going to be coaching 4 teams, but we were lucky enough to get a grant to help out with in-service days for local schools, as well as other camps and other things to help underprivileged children and families throughout our area. So Sam's going to be moving towards that. And we were able to hire Victor Martinez, who lives in Albany now, and he's only like a couple blocks from the YMCA, which is fantastic. And he moved here from Northern California and has had, I don't know, as many years as me, but because I'm a little grayer, but he's had a lot of years in running a club, 10 years in Northern California, which you can throw a stone and hit another club. There's just so many kids and clubs down there. So it's a very competitive environment. And so he's been through the battles of running clubs in a very competitive environment. And he's coached MLS next players and ECNL and boys and girls, young kids, older kids. So brings a wealth of experience and knowledge, and has a ton of energy, which we're super excited about because we just need more of that. So really excited about that. Want to adjust some things before we run out. That we just got done with the 2011 question, and so just real quick, if there's 2010 parents that have children that are going to be in 8th grade next year, we will be having a place for them to participate and hopefully play in games in the fall. It just depends on our tryout numbers and stuff, but there will be opportunity for them to train, and we most likely join a 2010 league if it's available for next fall, so that they can play in games. And we'll probably combine with the 11s. So that part's real important. Other quick thing that we've done today, we sent out a coaches evaluation, and I know, and I'm just gonna be straight up, that we've had some questions about coaching in this age group, and so we'd like your feedback, honest feedback, and we are looking to mix it up a little bit for next year. And we haven't announced coaches yet because your input. We're doing a club wide, so it's not just this age group, but we are doing club wide coaches evaluations, and that's a useful tool for us as technical directors to understand. We see what we see on the field, and we hear things, but we also want you guys to let us know how things are going. And so coaching decisions and slates won't be done until probably mid tryout, because we are still hiring a few coaches from outside the area, which is super exciting. And we want to get the right people in. So if you got that, you should have gotten that coach's eval. We try to make it really easy and not a ton of time. So it's just a questionnaire, and then at the bottom there's an area where you can write all the things you want to write, and you can just keep writing if you like, or just have some comments. That's great too. What else? We on the girls' side, we partnered with SCA 2 years ago. And we had players in the older ages and some of the players in this age group playing with the DPL and with the SCA teams. Our partnership with them is ending in a couple days. We're still friendly. We still have a good relationship with them. But they're moving on to an OYSA schedule and they're no longer doing DPL. And we feel like for our club and our kids and our community that we need to stay focused on our community. That doesn't mean that we're not going to give opportunities for players and teams to travel. In fact, our Navy teams are going to be doing that a lot, as well as the white teams. The white teams will be going to tournaments. The Navy teams will go to Pac Northwest and other travel tournaments if they want. And that's stuff we'll talk about later. But I think it's a really exciting time for us. We know that we may lose some players because of this, but we also feel like we may gain people over time because we're going to be more community based. And there's a lot of players that end up spending a lot of money and time traveling, and we still want to give those experiences, but we want to do it within our own club. So now I've talked too much. I'm going to turn this over to Victor Martinez, who's our girls going to be our girls technical director, as well as a 9v9 director. And Victor will give a brief overview of what we're calling game models for our club, as well as vertical integration for all of our club and coaches. And we're pretty excited about the direction we're going in. So Victor, all yours.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'll go through it pretty quickly, and I want to say in advance, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email, and we can either talk by phone, talk by email, or we can meet in person if you like. So, but I'm gonna try to go through this pretty quick for the sake of time. So this is the club. This is the girls development plan for our club now. The purpose of this is to get everybody on the same page, all our coaches on the same page as to where we're going and what we're trying to achieve. So that way it provides the club an identity of who we are and how we play. So numbers, go to 6. So I think the biggest focus that we want to emphasize in all our training session is that we address the technical piece of the game. That is the ability to receive a ball and control it, to pass the ball, dribble a ball, shoot a ball, or head a ball. So those are important, because the rest of it doesn't matter if you cannot do it unless you have these basic fundamentals down. In other words, if you can't receive a ball and keep it under control, obviously you can't pass it, nor you can dribble it. So all of these things have to add up in order for the player to become better at what they're doing and more effective, and can do. But without these, it cannot be done. It's not. You can't have these tactical aspects of the game if you don't have technique. Like I said, if you can't receive, then the rest of it, you can't make decisions. Obviously, you don't know where you're going. So, and next slide. Also, with that also comes these general principles as well too. These have to be the ones that, these are topics of teaching as well, that they have to understand. Penetration, basically, you're attacking, you're going at the goal. What does support mean? What does pressure mean? What does delay mean? What does cover mean? And how to apply it on the field. Those also have a technical piece. So there's technical pieces that belong on the attacking, which I already told you about, but there's also technical pieces that belong to the defending part. For example, on the pressures, how fast the speed of pressure, the angle of pressure that you're going to be applying, right? So those things are also technical things that the players must know in order to become better players and be more effective as an individual, as a group, and as a team. Next slide. The game model that you just talked about. So it's our idea. What do we want to do? We want to have purposeful possession, not just kickball. Kick it from the back or things like that. That's not really. But I don't consider soccer at all for just playing through the back and just kind of kicking it. There's a time and a place to do it, but it's just not. I think we're going to work on making sure that we know when it's time to hit a ball forward. And the defending, you want to be rapid, decisive defending, squad that we win the ball back quickly. Next one. This is kind of the idea of the concept of the entire club. We want to be able to kind of instill passion. And I know that Jess is here. I saw that, and that she's kind of instilling that was her number one thing as well too. You got to have them have fun and have love the game, because if not, they're not going to take risks. There's no confidence gain. None of the rest will apply either. So fundamentally, it's just something that we just work with the little kids and making it fun, but still learning the basic skill of dribbling. Because it's just, if you look at player development, that's, they don't want to share a popsicle if they don't have to. So they should look at it the same way with a ball. Next. Again, this is more for the advanced type of player. When you get into, advanced, like our navies, possibly, some of them would be able to do something like this. Once everything has been, the basic principle, the basic stuff has been applied, you can now get into, more definitive, unit team play, or strategical, tactical. You start, kind of figuring out what you're going to be doing with, certain games and things like that. But your principles now become a lot more specific to what you're going to be doing. Again, this is all to put us on the same page, but this is kind of an advanced page right here for the navies and things like that as an older group, though. Next page. Again, this is just another one, just a reminder, just want to take a look at these things, how I'm constantly mentioning the attacking play, the defending play. Those are all going to be the same. We want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So we're always going to be practicing those particular concepts. We'll have those type of issues. And also the transition part, it's, that's an action of when you have the ball and you lose it, what do you do? When you don't have the ball, we want to win it. How do you do it? So those are also parts of the game that we have to, a lot of that happens. In fact, all of the modern soccer is all moving into understanding that concept very, very well. Next page. But again, it can't be done without the techniques that you saw on the first page. So the advantages, I'm just going to go through the advantages. Allows teams from playing out of the back. Like I said, we don't want to just kick it forward. It allows teams to control possession and dictate tempo of the game. You know what I mean? So meaning that we're controlling, the more control we have, and we're setting how fast the game is going to be played. You know what I mean? And where it's going to be played, and what positions are we, what areas are we going to be daring to attack, and things like that. It stretches out the opponents, that gives us the ability to move the ball through those openings and create more opportunities for us. And it builds confidence in teamwork, which is what we want. Next page. Midfield play, we want a quick distributions, and those midfields are the ones that really are the, kind of the key to controlling the game, where it's the distribution has to be and the passing has to be exact. Again, going right back to the technique one more time. It has to be something that is mastered and be able to control that ball to make a decision. The next execution. So you have to receive, process, and execute, and that's got to be done very, very quickly. And it's harder to do when you got pressure on you. So that's why when we practice it, we have to practice it both isolated with nothing. That's why you see dribbling around cones, but then at some point you have to put it on with pressure as well too, so we can, progress to being able to deal with that and knowing how to make those decisions. But first you have to get that, without a cone, just kind of master receiving, passing, and things like that. Next slide. This again is our attacking play. We want to be able to kind of counter press and press high up the field and win the ball and attack right away. We want to be able to be systematic build up to be able to go and break lines. Break lines means you're going through, you're advancing from the position of the ball from beating the midfielders and now you're in front of the defenders now, something like that. It's just a simple version, but that would be something that we would want to do, and you can't do that. You got to be able to pass to move the teams around to get some open spaces to put the ball through. And again, goes right back to the technical piece. Again, I'm going to stress that technique must be something that we are very good at. From the young ones all the way to the older ones, it should something we should be practicing once a week. So we'll be making sure that coaches are at least doing a good chunk of 20 minutes worth of technical practice. And I do see them, but we want to make sure that everybody's doing the same thing and we're all in line with this particular model and this training here. So we all should be working on attacking play and strong defending play, so that way everybody's on the same page. Next one. This is just an example. Again, this is just an advanced example of little topics that can be dealt with, you know what I mean, that have to do with what we talked about. They're still sticking to the model that we want and the way we want to play. So all these are kind of topics that you can run. Sessions can be ran different ways. And on the next page, you'll see how we set up what we are going to be able to ask coaches to be able to show us or provide, or at least, have a plan in mind that we can see, or at least mention it, what you're doing. So that way we know that, everything lines up. We're not there to, to monitor or micromanage, but we want to give them the ability to kind of, hey, this is the direction in which we're going. We're all on the same page. The reason that is, and that's important, because if you have now the 2010s will be moving on to an higher age group and maybe moving on to another coach, they should have the same information. And now they learn something new from the other coach, because you'll be applying a little more things into her repertoire of knowledge, right? So it has to be lined up, because if one coach is doing something and another coach doing something completely different, it's not going to add up. It's going to be nothing but confusion, and you'll see the results on their ability to play effectively. Next one. These are the training sessions on the left here. It's just my training session. It's an example of a training session that I designed, but it's got all the specifics. I want to warm up. What am I going to do for possession and things like that, and what activities I must be focusing on that particular day. The coaches don't have to do any of that right there. But they'll have at least a plan, what they're going to do, and have it lined up with our model. Again, one more time. The coaches will also have an evaluation process for the players. They'll have one at the end of the season for fall and for spring. They have one now for spring to evaluate your players. Pretty simple. It's color, kind of a color there. You'll see it. You'll be able to see it yourselves. On the very top, you have these, what the scale is and where they're at, and they get the right little notations about where they're at specifically. That way, in 1 year, you're able to see progress. If you don't see a progress, then you can address those, and now you know how that this player needs a little more attention here. But also, this is a good idea good form to be able to get to know your player and kind of give them this information. This would be something that the coach and him can talk about. Hey, we need improvement here. You did well here, but we need to still bump it up a little bit more here. But at least they have something concrete, a guide per se. Okay, that's it. That's what I wanted to present. If you have any questions about this and the whole entire thing, you can get a hold of me. Like I said, call me, email me, or ask me to see you at the field.
Hey, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Devin. I'm sorry I came in late. I'm a parent of one of the 2010 girls. How does the structure work for you to communicate with the coaches? Because you have all these plans and all these great things. What does it look like on the backside? Do you all have regular weekly meetings? Are you doing professional development with the coaches? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I'm going to be on the field all the time. I'm there all the time. I was kind of looked at as a stranger at some points, and things like that, but I'm there all the time. So I'll be on the field all the time. Like I said, just kind of helping out, kind of assisting if I'm needed, cleaning up, whatever I have to do but I'm going to be on the field. We're going to try to have meetings like this with our coaches and to have different topics. So we'll have, we're going to help each other as a collective. So we will have, for example, we come in and say, hey, listen, I got a 7v7 team and I need help on, with these particular players on how to, get them to attack or something like that. Do you have a couple of things we can do? So then we share ideas, and then everybody's learning, right? And so we'll have the same thing for 11-11, 7, 11 aside or 9 aside. At least that's my plan with, what we want to do. But yes, and also we'll go out in the field and run some sessions. Hey, listen, let's see, can anybody volunteer, run your plan. Let's run this session together. Everybody have an input on the session, you run it, and then we'll all get together and then we fine tune that session. But then now the information is now with all the coaches and they're all on the same page of what is supposed to be run. How can we run this session with these little guys to attack them, for example, on the 7v7? That's just an example. But yes, we will be having those kind of meetings and also field sessions, if you will.
And then that's great. And then are you also planning to come to games and seeing how it's being executed in those sort of pressure environments?
I've been at games since I've been here. Yeah, I've gone to games and stuff like that. I got to see what's happening and stuff. That way I can at least know kind of where the team is going, because you have to see the game in order to identify what they're doing at practice, right? So like if you go to the game and they're not getting any shots out because they're not getting the ball forward, obviously, and then you look back and they're working on defense or whatever, well, that's the reason why they're not going forward, right? So you have to kind of look at both. So yes, I'll be looking at the games. I'll be going to games. I've gone to several of them in this past month and a half. So just kind of watching, not saying anything, just kind of watching and observing what's going on. But yes, that will continue. I'll be there pretty much every day.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Feel free to ask any questions, folks. You can ask, it's okay.
I'll just ask. So, we said that, the 8th graders, they're still trying out with the high school group, but then fall, they'll be training with the 2011s, ideally playing with them. Kind of similar to like what happened with the 09s this year. Played with us for fall and then bumped back up for spring. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then when they're trying out, is it gonna be just the 2010s and 09s trying out together? Is it all the high schoolers trying? It is just the 9s and 10s, right? Or are they with other groups?
Can you say that again, Jess, real quick, so I get it?
Just for tryouts, the teams are going to be formed like 2009 and 2010 mixed, or it's all high school age group. I know we talked about it a little bit, but just for clarification.
Yeah, I think I don't have a clear answer for that. Unfortunately, it's kind of foggy because I don't know who's coming out, right? So if I promise one thing, this happens all the time, right? Is like part of the problem with the girls' side is that we don't have big numbers. 2010s have big numbers, but there are age groups that don't have big numbers, and so we are kind of caught with having issues around how many kids are coming out, right? So part of what we're experiencing is because we have low numbers and we have sometimes a big skew of ability, it creates problems, right? Because nobody wants to be the best player on the team anymore, right? Because they want to go somewhere else. And by the way, being the best player on the team is actually a good thing for you sometimes, right? The leadership pieces and all those kind of things. And I can go on all about coaching and life philosophies and all that stuff, but at some point somebody has to be the best player on the team. And so the answer is, I don't know where some of these kids are going to end up. I do know there are some kids that need pushing. So right now we have a couple girls that are training with the boys program, right? So Montgomery, and there's a couple other girls that we are bringing in to train with boys because they're age groups, but they're staying in their age group, which is really great for them as far as friendships and all those things. And again, I don't know how many of these 2010 girls are going to come out for next year. And so that does form an issue, but some of the girls probably could play with the 2010s, but if we have a really solid group of 2010s, and it's not super clear, right? And that's really muddy. But as evaluators and Victor and everything else, we're gonna have to figure that out as we go along. So I know that's not a great answer, and maybe I didn't quite understand your question.
No, that's fine.
I would prefer, like we're trying to do in the boys thing, is keeping kids in age. When we start pushing people up and it starts getting all weird, then the kids that leave, it's an actual detriment to the development of all the kids when we start pulling the best players and up and up and up, and then before you know it, we have everybody playing in marginal teams, right? And so for me, my hope is at some point the girls, we can start studying the ship a little bit and keeping kids in age. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't bump kids up for training or for games like we're doing all over the rest of the club, where we're moving kids up for games, but they're still training. And Jess, you know this because we talk about it all the time. I'm a big proponent of kids staying in their group, the better players, because it helps the other players out, but then giving them the opportunity to go play on a different day with an older team, right? So that
Blake, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Last year there were a few 8th graders,
Yeah.
and it was not identified at this point in the season where they were going to be in the fall. And I think maybe I'm interpreting Jess's question with that lens. So I think what I heard was, if there are 8th grade 2010 girls, they will either be placed onto a team with 2010 boys who are also not in high school, or maybe they will be combined with the 2011 girls, and you're guaranteeing that they'll have a team to play with in the fall. Was that just your question?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So maybe I misunderstood.
Well, folks, before
No, that
let me let you know.
wasn't my question, but
If
Oh,
it
sorry.
cuts off,
That's
that was
okay.
two different things. There's two different conversations going. But I
Yeah.
just want to let you guys know that if it cuts off, because it's going to shut off at 7:30, just rejoin again and we can continue the discussion. Yes? Because it will shut
Okay.
off. Yeah? Okay. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was more like the fall thing is good, but then coming back in winter, then they regroup with their own group, right? They don't stay with the 2011s. I think that was taken care of. I think then the other question was more of along the lines of what Blake you got at, in terms of team placement. And I guess one further question on that is, I know that there was some problems with this, with the high school groups last year when we did it, of like the initial tryouts, kids being told they were going to be with a certain team, and then come winter tryouts in November, those things changed a little bit. So is the policy changing around that, of like, how is it going to be communicated about teams in May going forward for high school girls?
We're going to
Because things
try.
could change in November, right?
Well, and real quick, as you know, and most of you know, that we have tryouts in May, and come November, there's girls and boys that drop off, and then we have also more that want to play. So,
Right.
we can make up a team in May with the high school kids, but I can guarantee whatever that team is going to be a little different, because we'll have additions and we'll have subtractions based on kids changing their mind in November or December. So the best we can do is form teams in May, and we run with it during the summer, knowing that most likely some players will drop and some players will add. And
So I'm just wondering how it's going to be communicated in May. Like, hey, is it going to be more of, this is the pool, you're in the Navy pool, but come November, final decisions will be made?
No, we're going to announce teams.
No.
We're announcing teams.
Yeah.
We're not playing that game. That's been a big problem for the girls' side, is that there's just been, so I've talked to other groups about this. I call it the a la carte experience, right? Like, I get to pick what I do and what I don't do. And so that's worked for some players in the older groups, but it's not worked out for us as a club. So we're going to announce teams.
And that's your team.
Yeah, and that's your team. And then, like I said, if we lose some players, then we may have to move some players to fill in, or hopefully we'll get some more players coming in, because we're we're communicating well and we're getting more people out. So
So
yeah,
then will there even be tryouts in November?
we'll have supplemental tryouts. Yeah, if we have new kids coming out. Yeah,
But
they're
it'll
not
only be for new kids.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does
The
that
other
answer
one,
your
we
question,
already-
Devin?
That answers my question.
I think so then, because of what Jess just said.
Well, no, if it's not clear,
Uh,
we want it to be clear. We want to start off this whole thing by being clear.
I think it's great. I think it's really hard for you all to be girl centered and focused on individual players. And also be thinking about the whole group at the same time. I think that that's a very challenging spot to be in. And I think it messes with numbers when individuals get shuttled in different directions. And that's not a question. That's a statement.
Statement. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we are going to that's not going to happen anymore. Once you're on your team, you're on your team. Blake was talking about, yes, you'll have the occasion to come train with a team or go play with a team, but not at the expense of not playing with your team to go play with another. So if, for example, I'm just giving an example, you have you have a 2010 girl that is being asked to go play with the 2013s, for example, and the games are exactly at the same time. That 2010 cannot go play with the 2013s because her team is the priority. That's how we're going to be dealing with those things now. So we're not going to move players around at random for no reason and dilute the pool for the sake of what?
And and Sam is the like clearinghouse who's got his eye on all the games. He's going to know that so that coaches aren't asking players to go do something in a weird way or
He's
Yeah,
not.
so let me talk about this. So Sam was having to do that because we had people a la carting their experience, right? And that was on us because that's what we thought we were doing it. I still think the idea was right. Executing it based on, we had this winter we had so many games canceled because of ice and snow, which then put pressure on OYSA games because they got overscheduled and all that. So some of that's our fault, but some of that's just because it just happened that way. And then, like the last weekend we had a game in Portland and it got moved to Pasco for goodness sakes, right? So, but those things we can't control. But what I like about what we're trying to do is we're just doing OYSA now. And so that simplifies a lot of things. So when Victor's saying, hey, you got your team, if the Navy 2010 team has a game on Saturday, then that's their priority. If they don't have a game on Sunday and the 2008s need some players, we may invite some players up if they need players. But those things but they got to stay with their core team, right? And that's where we're at. So we may lose some players, and that's okay. Like I just, for us, it was absolutely miserable, to be honest with you. Running it was miserable. We didn't have fun with it. I didn't enjoy it. That's just not how I want to run things. And we were trying to do something good for the girls, but it ended up not being good for the girls or us. And so we're going to go back to our core and take care of kids and take care of our coaches too, because it was hard on the coaches as well. So
Devin, so the answer is that he does know that we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And just to add on, Victor is going to be the one for this group that's going to be watching everything that's going on and making sure everything's taken care of. So Victor's going to be the point person for the girls moving forward.
Anybody else have a question? Aaron, you look like you're looking for a question.
No, I don't have a question. I'm glad to hear that because a few years ago we had a season where we never had enough kids to play and we never knew who was coaching and it was just chaos. And it's good to hear that. I mean, even right now with this spring season, like we have people on our roster that don't practice, that don't play, so then when we're trying to travel and make those plans, it's like, are we going to have enough people? Are we not going to have enough people? But I'm glad to hear that you will have that kind of like core group that will essentially play together. Because I think that's the other thing that I know some of the kids at times feel like there's no cohesion, right? Like, how can you work together to build a team when you have all of these constantly moving pieces?
Yep, you're absolutely right. One of the things that we also would like, that we're, hoping to, we have discussions, our preliminary discussions in regards, but, when players, especially the Navy teams, when they're making a commitment, we kind of expect them because we want to give you as many dates as possible ahead of time. So what has a tendency to happen is we give you the schedule. We want to make sure that we're going to have all these players. We want an age pure team to go do what they got to do, not a mix of teams. Preferably, we want a pure age. But some of the people that have vacations announce it to us, you know what I mean? So like if we see a upcoming tournament and we just don't have the players and the players have to go to Washington and we're having to hodgepodge people together, we might as well just cancel that tournament, right? It doesn't make any sense. So, but what I'm saying is if people are going to be playing here, we want a little bit more commitment to go do these things that we posted out. You know what I mean? Because what they're doing is they're not hurting me. They're hurting you and they're hurting your kid. So that's kind of the approach that we want to go in a direction, at least a little more commitment, especially for the tournaments that are far away. We had some situations that I know of that on the last minute on Thursday, well, she's going to pull out of the tournament because she's going to go play basketball. Well, that's not fair to anybody, So we want to kind of avoid and make those expectations, have our coaches make those expectations from the beginning, right? And say, listen, these are the tournament dates where we want to go here, but we need all of you. So we're asking everybody to commit now. Is there going to be changes all of a sudden, the things that, you're not going to be able to make, something happens or, whatever, you got sick, whatever. Yes, absolutely. Those are valid, but not when you're choosing to go to a basketball because that's, where you want to go now. That's not fair. Well, we're already short. You're thinning out a team that's already thin already. And now you're
Yes.
bringing in players that don't know each other.
So what's going to be the policy around, I think notoriously around here, high school girls, even this age group, are really involved with a lot of different things. So what's kind of the policy around the commitment and what happens? Because right now there's people that miss for a lot and still play when they want to, and to know by consequence.
Well, we cannot tell kids they can't play high school basketball.
Sure. No,
right?
absolutely.
But and we can't tell them not to do track. What we can do is, it's a two-way street, right? So I've had even this year of coaching the 2012, I'm not hearing from parents, not all the time, but I sometimes don't know what's going on. Kids are missing games. I don't know they didn't show up, right? So but then I hear from parents saying, well, you guys aren't